Welcome to another one of my videos. I'm doing a little build video here, and I just wanted to take a few moments out because the video that I did here, I still don't have a microphone and it's a little hard to hear. So I decided to go ahead and do a voiceover and talk to you directly while you watch me fiddle around with a piece of styrofoam. This particular build that I'm doing is an 8-foot Warhammer. And if you're unfamiliar with what a Warhammer is, basically it's an exaggerated hammer on a stick. So, in order to make this hammer, well, it's already going to be huge at 8 feet. In order to make this, I'm going to have to make it as light as possible. That's what I'm using here is foam. And what you're looking at is foam and a channel for the handle, the 8-foot handle that's going to come out of it. So I tested the handle, or tested the channel, and it's using a hardboard laminate. And this hardboard laminate is also known as yucca board. It's laminated 3 layers thick on those channel sidebars. It's the same thing that I used for this master sword here. As you can see, all the individual layers. Each one is about an eighth of an inch thick, and it's what I use most of my projects, or use with most of my projects, including the handle itself. Yucca board is weak and strong at the same time. Once it's glued together, it's pretty good. Once you start getting 3 layers thick, or 3/8 of an inch, it's the lamination process that makes it extremely sturdy. But it needs one more step. And you'll notice peeking out of some of the edges of these laminated pieces, there's little dowels sticking out. I will dowel the side rails for the channel to make sure it sticks together as best as it can, and to keep it from splitting apart. Like here, you can see me wobbling it. That's a good sign of structural integrity. The more it wobbles, the less it snaps, the better it is. Now, I've tried various glue types on this. I'm actually commenting here about Super 77. Super 77 worked for a while, but turns out it didn't stick for very long very well. It didn't seem to like the heat. It didn't seem to like how much I put on there. It required more. It was very fickle. And Super 77 is kind of a good instant solution, but I've never liked it as a long-term solution. Though I have used it on different projects, especially ones that keep constant pressure on themselves. Outside of that, I like to use other things. This project is all about foam. This is a standard insulation foam, blue. I got it from the hardware store, and laminating on that yucca board. So I'm just going to trim it here real quick. Same technique you would use for EVA foam. Nothing different. I just sharpened my knife and just give it a quick little slice. Now, one thing that you do need to know is that insulation foam does not come ready to accept glue, especially wood glue. Wood glue does not absorb into the foam, so you have to get it prepped to absorb into the foam. Now, what I showed earlier was a scrap piece of sandpaper that I used for the other side. It is 240 grit, which is actually kind of low. That's a finishing grit for most sandpaper. You can use 120 grit. There's no problem with that, but you want to apply it lightly. You want to sand lightly, and you also want to sand it in a single pattern. You do not want to rub with strength. When you rub and you really try to sand it instead of just rubbing it across the top, you create heat. And you'll see on my piece of sandpaper that there is a spot on there where the foam particles won't come off because they actually melted into the stuff, or the actual grit. Sandpaper. What do you call it? The grains? Yeah, the grains. All right. Next step, glue. Gluing, how shall I describe this? It's just wood glue, right? So you have to put it on in a nice thin stream. You cannot gloop it on. Also, when I do lamination, when I do the yucca board or hardboard lamination, I spread the glue around, I apply it very liberally, and I put pressure behind it. Well, those first 2 steps don't work as well with foam because of the absorption qualities of foam. So it doesn't naturally spread out, it doesn't absorb into itself, and you have to apply it so that it has a ridge, a dome. So the glue is going to reach up, peek into the Yucca board, which has two sides. We'll go over that in a second. And then you let it naturally spread apart. So the sanding that we did earlier, the glue will seep into that and adhere to the sanded area and the wood. And it's going to adhere with the same properties, just like it was a regular piece of wood. However, foam is very weak on its own, so it won't stick, or it'll break apart a lot easier than wood will. Oh yeah, rough and smooth sides of Yucca board. The rough side is going to go face down onto the project, so rough side to foam. And the reason why I do that is because foam traps the moisture. The rough side will allow the glue to evaporate, or I should say the water in the glue to evaporate, will allow it to evaporate, spread out a little bit, and create a better physical bond. Now, if you're thinking ahead, you'll also know that I'm going to put the smooth side to foam. And that is true. I'd prefer to have rough sides on both, but this is the structural part of the entire project, so I want it to be as structurally sound as possible. So that's why it's rough side to foam, and I'm going to put weights on it to help distribute the weight, or help distribute the force, and to keep it as strong as possible. These clamps are only for those strips because I want the hardboard to stick to the backing in the strips as best as it can, because that is where most of the force is going to be applied in the entire project. Well, we're almost done with this part, and I can get away with voiceover, and I'll actually talk in the video. Just as a reminder, in case you've forgotten, I am doing a giveaway that is going to be a drawing on the 28th for one of my Hyrulean Loyalist rings. Yeah, plug in myself. Aren't I smooth? Well, if you're already following me on YouTube, you're already entered. If you're just finding this video, well, follow me, and you'll be entered. The drawing is on the 28th of this month, 5/28/2018. You know, May. I had to count that on my fingers. I ain't gonna lie. Okay, my apologies. This has been a couple of weeks since we got started. I actually had a problem with my bandsaw. It broke. Oh, not the bandsaw itself. My blade broke, leaving me bandsawless and unable to continue this project right here. But I have a new bandsaw. We'll go over that in just a minute. However, first things first, I wanted to show you a couple of things. This is the piece of styrofoam, same material that is sandwiched underneath here. This styrofoam is usually pretty reactive. It doesn't like things touching it. Well, I say things. This is primer, just a regular Rust-Oleum primer, and this is Plasti-Dip. And I was really surprised because the last time I did this with Plasti-Dip, it ate into it completely. And this is just a raw piece of foam. And it did not eat into it. I even got it on the side to see what would happen. As you can see, nothing. I was really surprised. I was like, that's not supposed to happen like that. And I thought it was wrong. It was a fluke. Oh, well, maybe I didn't shake the can up well enough last time or something. And regular Rust-Oleum primer, Plasti-Dip. And as you can see, they didn't deform it at all. I was so surprised. I thought for sure this would deform it and I'd show you something neat. But no, it showed nothing. So that was very boring. But a good experiment in the end. There it is. Nothing happened. That's actually a good thing when it comes to cosplay, because the last thing you want is to sit here and give yourself a layer of primer and all of a sudden you've lost your project. Well, there it is. Rust-Oleum primer at least worked. However, I wanted to show something else to you because I have experimented with different glue types, and here is a quick experiment. Really neat texture. I might want to implement that if I was doing terrain or something like that. It's hard, it's not as soft as this is, where I can poke into it real easy. A little bit harder. And the thing is, what we're seeing here is this is barge cement. Yeah, just a little bit slathered on top, just to try to see what kind of adhesion properties I'd get on that. And lo and behold, I tried it here. I was like, okay, let's just glue it together and see what happens. And that's what I did. And it's a disaster. A neat disaster, but it's disaster nonetheless. Another neat terrain effect. I wouldn't want my cosplay to look like this. Nor is that effectively glued together, because the only part that wound up being glue or anything around the edge that touched this edge. That was it. So it came together, or came apart really easy. That is the importance of testing these. Super glue is going to do that too. In fact, give me 1 second. Okay, welcome back. That was like, just a camera transition. Here is my accelerant. And here's my foam piece. Does accelerant affect this? I got it on there. Nothing yet. This is my EM02 Starbond glue. This is my DAP gel glue for woods, real thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to test. And bloop. Bloop. Yep. Excuse me. All right, so this is the wood quality super glue, very thick. It doesn't run much. Now I was actually hoping to see an effect immediately. Doesn't look like I'm getting one right now other than my fingernails. It's enough of that. Let's go on to this one. Doopy-doopy-doo. Doopy-doo. Doopy-doopy-doo. Doopy-doo. Ooh, look at that. Instant reaction. So, let's halt it. See the super glue smoke. Didn't halt it, did it? Well, it sort of did on one side. Like it halted it on this side, not on this side, because it was still reacting. But alright, there we go. Halted. Look at this one. Not yet. Let's thin it out a little bit. Nothing? A reaction? I'm seeing a little bit of something. Just a little bit of reaction. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So the thicker the CA glue, the less of a reaction you get with the foam. The thinner it is, the more instant it is. Another neat effect that you could obtain in your foam, but not something you want to do accidentally. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. Boo-boos and accidents that can happen on your styrofoam, and why I chose wood glue, because wood glue does not react with it. Now, I'm going to bring the camera back a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to first, hold on, bring the camera back now. Ha, there's my little table saw. My garage window, garage door. Okay, so I have right here a giant piece of paper with the shape of the axe head on there. I'm going to glue it on here, and I am just going to use this glue. It's really nothing. It's purple. Neat, huh? Just some purple wood glue, or glue stick. And I'm going to get a little bit on there. And I'm especially going to focus around here where these are. These are my guidelines, and these are my cut lines. So guide, cut. I'm going to cut along the lines, so this is where I want to put the glue. And I'm going to have it adhered to here so I can get ready to cut. That's the next step. That is about 9 pieces of paper in Photoshop. So it is designed to fit over the entire thing. And I've got guidelines right here for this. Remember that hole? So I can line that up and I'll be able to put it down. And once I have it on here, I'll be able to start cutting on my new bandsaw. Now, I'm not going to be doing an endorsement on that bandsaw. I'm just going to show you the difference between a cheap and a good bandsaw. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I won't show you the difference, but I'll just talk about it. If you've ever seen any of my other videos with my other bandsaw, well, you know it's kind of loud, noisy. It works. It works. All right. I find it easier that once I have this big heavy ruler on the piece of paper to actually adjust the piece of paper until I have it lined up with that. So that's good enough, right? That looks right. Do you agree? I think so. If it's off by a little bit, that's okay. So this is what I mean by when I say I use this bandsaw or table saw as a project table. That's all wood glue. I was just cleaning it off. But I use it a lot. I need another table because all my tables are getting taken up by power tools. And I'm cleaning up my garage little by slow to turn this into like, a proper YouTube channel workshop where, things are pristine and clean. It'll never be pristine and clean. I kind of like living in a perpetual mess. But anyway, enough of that. As you can see, I have a basic shape here, but I also have a lot of wasted space. Like that's wasted, this is wasted, this is all wasted. See, this is why I like to use a cheap material like this, because if this was metal or something more expensive, you don't want to waste that much. But with something like this, I could waste all that and not feel so bad. Welcome to Bandsaw Part 2. Yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of a voiceover here. This new bandsaw works very well, partially because the blade is brand new and extremely sharp, but also because it's very stable. I was able to cut those guidelines that were sticking out very easily. I was actually really impressed and I wanted to show it off. I was very happy with it. The brand is irrelevant because there's about 100 of these on Amazon. They're all makes of this, I think it was originally a Ryobi. Anyway, this was the cheapest one that was available and I just snagged it and just started using it. Now that I am using it, I'm very happy with it. The old bandsaw was extremely noisy, extremely hard to work, and it was also a lot smaller. This bandsaw is a 9-inch bandsaw. My old one was a 7¼ inch, and a lot smaller. And the motor on this one is much more aggressive, so I can make cuts a lot faster and a lot easier. So I can do the same amount of work with a lot less effort. And I just wanted to check the inside of the doors because it's still a brand new bandsaw, and I want to make sure it's still working. Foam likes to gather up in the wheels and start to gum them up because it gets hot. but it actually has a brush on the inside of the bandsaw to keep that, or to keep material off of it, which is a great thing. So I just every once in a while go in with my air hose and clean it out. But yeah, this is about a 1/4 inch of the hardboard and 3/8 of an inch, not 3/8, 5/8 of an inch of foam. So it's a very soft material to begin with and very easy to cut on a bandsaw. And in case you're wondering, yes, I sped this up. You don't want to watch me take as long as it really takes to actually do all these cuts. I was going slow to be cautious and follow the line, which is always recommended. I always recommend that because you don't know how many times I've cut too aggressively, too greedily, too quickly, and it wanders off and cuts too deeply. Don't do that. Take your time. When you have a good sharp blade and a nice bandsaw, it's smooth. Okay, there it is. All cut out and ready to go. The next step is to start mounting layers and layers of blue foam on top of it until I finish out the bulk. Once I do that, I can start trimming it away. But one thing that is good to do after you've cut it is to actually examine the cut angle. That is, did this remain perpendicular? And it did, most of it. There's some spots in here that are rough, but this is not a finished cut. Only thing that this is the shape, because once I get all the foam stacked on here, I can't run it through any bandsaw. No bandsaw that I know of is going to be big enough. There's going to be about 14 inches of space on here. I'll have to double check that, but I don't have a bandsaw and I don't have $1,000 to drop on a bandsaw to be able to do that. So yeah, we're going to make do. Another thing, after you check the angle, is to make sure that the glue had seeped in all the way through. And I think there's a little spot right here that didn't get it, but all in all, it is not showing any signs of a weak glue up. And all of the edges and corners are on here, and they're tight. They're not coming apart. So that's a really good sign. Okay, there it is. Step one of many. All right, that's going to conclude this video.